So today we're going to talk about clinical development and clinical trials. And I like to think of a clinical development program as a series of human experiments that end up in ensuring a product is safe and good and efficient for use in humans. So clinical trials follow a sequence for product development, and it generally starts at a phase 1 trial, moves on to phase 2, and then phase 3 and phase 4. The first experiment in human is called a first-in-human trial, and it is generally a very small trial at the lowest possible dose and really directed at ensuring that the human is safely experimented upon. It usually occurs under a lot of controls that are regulated in the US by the FDA and through good clinical practice, which is called GCP, an international standard that ensures clinical trials are safely conducted in humans. So if I had to describe a typical phase 1 trial, very much like the trials we do at Sabin, we will start with a vaccine, and in this case we will know that the indication is for prevention for a target disease, and we have already had information that it is safe in animal studies and also stay safe in laboratory experiments. So then we will design a study that is experimental in nature, so may or may not have a control group where no vaccine is received, and we will evaluate safety across all its parameters from the first reaction for vaccine, which we call reactogenicity. So that's what you feel when any of you have had a routine vaccination. So it's pain, fever, a little bump on your arm or wherever else the vaccine site is. And that's also a reaction, and it is not a bad reaction. We like vaccines to be reactogenic. When those reactions are extreme and cause discomfort in an extreme way or effects that are undesirable, because we call those adverse events and serious adverse events. And the phase 1 trial in the first instance is to detect those. It is also to detect how high we can go in terms of a dose, how the drug or vaccine or other product is distributed in the body, and how it is eliminated. That is called pharmacokinetics. This experiment will be done in as few as 1 or 3 humans and up to 100. But generally, a first-in-human study is a phased and controlled approach in humans. Phase 2 clinical trials take the development steps one stage further. So at this point, we have the results of a phase 1 clinical trial that demonstrates in a very small number of people that this product is safe to go forward into a larger group of people. So in a phase 2, we're still looking at healthy individuals and we're still focusing on safety, but we are hoping also to have a little deeper dive into how this vaccine might work and how the body is affected by it. After the phase 2 trial, we will then launch what is called a phase 3 trial. These are massive trials, and the size of the trial is determined by the incidence of the disease. So what you're looking for is preventable outcomes. So these trials generally extend into thousands and up to 30,000 individuals, depending on how frequent the disease is in a population. In a phase 3 trial, we will at the end evaluate the number of prevented diseases. And this is why the placebo or the control group is so important, because it is expected that in this group the disease rate will continue in an unfolding epidemic or in an unfolding situation of high disease incidence. And it is expected that the vaccine group will have no or less disease. And the whole design of the study is statistically determined as to where there will be sufficient number of prevented diseases that will allow us to make a determination that the vaccine is efficacious. So efficacious means that this vaccine works under the scenario of an experimental condition where we have prevented sufficient disease against an unfolding disease incidence. A phase 4 clinical trial takes us to the post-licensure period. So this is a point we reach when we know the vaccine has been proven to be safe and efficacious in a phase 3 or multiple phase 3 clinical trials. But then we want to know whether the vaccine works in populations. And this is where there is a discussion as to whether the vaccine can sustain heat excursions, or whether modifications are needed in the delivery, or whether there's a service component that affects an effective administration of a vaccine. So a phase 4 trial is definitely the responsibility of the sponsor and vaccine developer to ensure that the ongoing safety and effective administration of the vaccine is continued throughout the life of that vaccine. So clinical development throughout the process is supported by the underlying regulatory strategy. And at each point during the development process, from before you start your clinical development to before you launch a full-scale efficacy trial, you will have regular and detailed communications with the regulatory authority. So once you have completed the full clinical development, you will then submit a package against which you will apply for registration of your product. At this stage, you will be advised by the regulatory authority whether the product is approved or not, and additional pharmacovigilance, which is this ongoing safety oversight of your product through marketing and distribution.